time here, would you just raise your hand real quick so I can see who? Yep. We have the Friendship Public Charter School here with us today. They're doing something awesome. Ash, good friends Ash El Shazli and Vernon Vaughn, Corey Jones over there, Brocard Properties, Protector Construction over there. They deserve a shout out. Where's Mike at? There he is. He's always here and lively. Appreciate his energy and his support for what they're doing. I know they supplied hard hats and I think some bags for one of the walkthroughs of one of the properties that you guys had a tour of. So thank you guys so much for coming. I'm excited to have you guys here and what the future holds with what you're doing. So I was thinking about things that I could say, and every single meetup I always have like a thought of something that I could say and what I could leave you guys with. And I pray about this all the time, like what is it that I could share with the group? And today I was having this thought about talking about a situation that I've been dealing with the IRS. Has anybody had any dealings with the IRS that's not been so good? Well, that came into my mind. I was like, yeah, that's good. I should talk about that. But then it changed up for me. The thought that popped in my head, I was like, no, we're not going to talk about that. I will talk about the IRS thing. It was a really bad thing, but that turned out to be a really good thing. And I can share that at another time. And sorry to leave you in the suspense of wondering what happened with the IRS. But I want to talk about two things that I think I have in terms of swag. I have some swag that there's two things in my life that where I believe I have some exterior swag. And I don't usually boast about anything, but I'm gonna boast about these two things. And one are my shoes. I always have fresh shoes on, if you have noticed. And my wife helps make sure that my shoes are right. And these in particular are from a gentleman named Barry Braverman. And Barry is the shoe guy. And he's like the custom shoe guy. And I love him and the shoes that he gets because they're different than what I've ever seen. And so he asked me for a photo. Whenever I buy a pair of shoes, can he take a photo and send it to me? I hate it when he asks me this. He wants me to take a picture with him. And I get so annoyed when he asks me to take the picture with my shoes. I don't like it. It keeps bothering me. So Barry, I hope you're hearing this somewhere. If this is recorded, I'm giving you a plug. And I'm gonna take a picture with these shoes because I do appreciate you. I don't like taking pictures with the shoes, but I do appreciate you, Barry. So that's one area. The other area I think is my hair. So I get my hair cut every Friday, and this is a thing for me. And my type of hair that I have, I go to a Dominican barbershop. And as a white man, that I found out when I was probably 29 years old that I was not the heritage that I thought I was, or the culture that I was. I found out that I was Sicilian, and I didn't know this. And I discovered this at the age of 29, and I was wondering why I had this like wiry, like this hair that I have. It's got waves, and I think maybe there's some. And when I did that DNA test, the 23andMe, isn't that what it's called, baby? There may be like a little smidge of African American in there, like a small. I don't know, there's a little piece, but I have this wave that goes in every once in a while. I'm like, man, where does this come from? So my hair, I go to this barbershop, but the first time I went there, I gotta tell you, I was a little uncomfortable because this barbershop is predominantly Black Americans, Hispanics, and I'm not used to being in that environment. So I go in there, and I get my hair cut, maybe it was like 10 years ago, and all my barbers don't speak English. The guy that cuts my hair, Juan is a massive Dominican dude, which pretty much every one of those guys I think has family and relatives that have played in the major leagues. And so there's baseball stuff all around in there. And this barbershop is called Classico Barbershop, which is on Highland Avenue in Highlandtown. And what I found is, man, they can fade better than any place there is. And then the shape up, which is really important if you have this type of hair. And they hit that shape up perfectly. And it's so precise, and I like that. So I go in there every Friday at 9 a.m. and I get this haircut. But I say all that to say that I was a little uncomfortable when I went in there that first time because people didn't look like me. So this swag, how am I talking about swag? My shoes and my hair, and how does that relate to this thing that I want to tell you about today? And it's two things. It's not to brag about what I have, but I picked up these things, and I get a lot of props from my Black American brothers and Hispanic friends and brothers. And I get a lot of encouragement when I wear these shoes. I hear it more from the Black Americans than I do from white people and or people that look like me. So I get these props, and when I do, it feels good. So that being said, I go to this barbershop. Juan does not speak English, but when I go in there, I think I'm going there to get this haircut. But really what it does for me is it showed me how going into a place, maybe you're uncomfortable in an environment that you're not used to, but where God meets you in these places where you may be uncomfortable, but you learn the most. And what happened was, I go into that barbershop, Juan puts on Tu Estás Aquí, which is sung by Jesus Romero and Marcella, I forget her last name, but it is the most beautiful song I've ever heard in my life. And he puts that song on, it's just him and I in the barbershop, 9 a.m., and he puts that song on, and I don't understand what the words are saying, but it is a beautiful song. And I start feeling like this week I was having, this was probably a year or so ago. Now I've been going there for like 10 years. And that song, that was the first time he started putting this Spanish worship music on. And when he put that song on, I was having a bad week. I was like mentally just not in a good spot. That song came on, I felt like the presence of God like no other. And it hit me. And I started having tears flowing down my cheeks while he's shaping up my hair. And he's a big, strong dude. And then all the other guys that normally are in there, you would perceive them to just be these macho type dudes, when in fact, it wasn't that at all. My tears are flowing down my face, and I'm like feeling God's presence. And what I felt was him saying, I'm here with you, I love you, I'm with you, you are good, you're in a good spot, you don't have nothing to worry about, there's no fear. And I felt that, and when Juan sees the tears coming down, he don't say anything. And it was just his presence that I felt that was so much bigger, and there was so much love. And in that spot where if I would have never stepped out of my comfort zone and gone someplace where it was a little different, it wasn't what I'm used to, it's not the same color skin in there, it's not this or that makes me feel comfortable. I had to step out of that comfort zone and go to that place where I met these people, and I end up having amazing conversations and getting to know people that look different than me, and we speak about things that are different, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings that share the same type of feelings, inadequacies, fears, anxieties, and it was a matter of our heart and a condition of what our heart is. And so in there, he was like, yeah, Tyler, T, God's good. He's saying that. And so we end up praying together in this barbershop with a man that doesn't speak English, but our hearts are aligned because we share the same faith, we share the same thing, and that is love. So I wanted to bring that up because that was deep on my heart this morning. Instead of talking about the IRS, I wanted to talk about a little bit about something that's a little more meaningful than just business and money, and it's more about love and putting yourself in a position where maybe you're uncomfortable, and then being okay in that discomfort. And Ash and I were talking the other day, and he shared an experience with me that I thought was pretty neat. And him growing up, and this speaks to people that maybe share a different religion or faith than what I do. And I identify as a follower of Jesus Christ, and I am a man that puts his faith first, and what I attempt to do is live my life according to his riches and his glory, and I try to give him all the glory in everything that I do. So, but Ash and I were talking about when he was growing up, his dad is Muslim, and his dad would pray in anywhere. If it was time to pray, he was going to boldly pray. It didn't matter who was there, he was doing it. And it would make Ash feel uncomfortable. And so I have to respect these other religions in their boldness. And there's something to that, as I was talking to you, Corey, that these other religions, there's some boldness. I have Jewish brothers, I have Muslim brothers, I have Christian brothers, and that I can take pieces from each one of them and learn how it is that I ought to be living my life in boldness and not changing. If I'm in that barbershop and everybody that looks different than me, I don't adapt to act as if I'm somebody different. I try to do my best to stay exactly who I am in every scenario. So I talk the same way. Now there's one thing that is a little different in this. It's the handshakes. The handshake with a white man versus a black man versus Hispanic. And that I haven't quite fully figured out. Sometimes you go in like the white handshake and then the black handshake where you got to come in and like so there's an in-between stage. I think we even had one of those situations here today where I did it maybe a little awkward. I apologize. My intention is not to mess up and do that wrong. I want to get that handshake right. So, but I am not changing who I am. In every one of these scenarios, I am who I am, and everybody that's in here, we should remain who we are. And we ought to accept other people as their differences and demonstrate love with them. So back to the story about the faith. And my dad, growing up, he would pray when we would get ready to eat a meal. It didn't matter where we were. He would like pray, bow your head, we're going to pray. And I used to get uncomfortable with that, looking around the room like, who's watching me? Why are we doing this? This is awkward, it's uncomfortable. But there's a lot of respect that I have when you are bold in that what you do. Whoever's in the room, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I do and do it with boldness. So that was another thing that came up in our conversation when I was talking to Ash. So he shared that same feeling. And a lot of times those uncomfortable moments are what really, I appreciate that. Because I can stand here and do what we do. And this meetup, which is different than all real estate meetups in my opinion, is I proclaim the name of Christ. And I proclaim it boldly, and I do not have any fear or worry about how somebody may feel about that. Doesn't mean that you're excluded, but it's just who I am and what I stand for. And I would love for everybody in here to have that same relationship with God that I do, but if you don't, that's okay. You're welcome here. I love you and I want to see you grow. So the purpose of this meetup is not to just make sure that we can learn about deals, but it's about how do you grow in your faith, your relationships, and a community that will grow together and ultimately succeed. And that looks like a lot of different things. It's not just money. Real estate is great. I love the process of it. I don't necessarily actually just love the real estate because it kind of gets old to me after I own it. Once I get it, the process of getting it is exciting, and then I have to pass it on to somebody that has a strength that's different than mine. So that being said, we're going to bow our heads and I'm going to pray for us, and then I'm going to welcome up to the table our guest speakers for the day. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day. I thank you for this opportunity to have this platform and this floor to glorify your name. And Jesus, I ask that you would bless this food and this time that we have together, and that you would get all the glory and the honor through it. And I pray that we would be encouraged and that we would grow together and ultimately reflect your love. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. So our guest speakers today are two black men, young black men, and I don't mean to just keep calling out this race thing, but I feel like this was in my heart today, and this thing is a real thing that we're facing in our country, and I don't feel like it should be a thing. And so I am excited to have them, and they are killing it in the commercial real estate business. So the first guest speaker is going to be Aaron Inman. If you would please come up to the front here, and then we have Nigel Crayton, if you would come on up. And so my relationship, go ahead, give him that props. My relationship started with Aaron, and Aaron's been coming to these meetups. Appreciate you, sir. And he's been coming pretty much every month faithfully. Nigel is hopefully going to keep coming back, but he lives and does a lot of business down in D.C. And Aaron, I met Aaron on a project that I held. It was a 6-unit over on West Landvale. He was selling the property next door, and he was smart enough to reach out and try to package the two deals because they're more valuable together than they were solo. So we ended up putting a deal together, and he sold that for me, and I was impressed with the way he operated in the 6-unit deal. And we gave John and I, who own a 30-unit apartment building together, reached out and said, Aaron, if you were interested and you could find us a buyer, we'd like to give you a shot on this 30-unit, selling that. And I was so impressed with his approach. And we had also talked to some other folks in the commercial real estate sales industry, and we didn't like the way that we felt when we met with them. I don't know if I ever told you this, but it felt like they were the guys that we were supposed to go to for this business, but they didn't have the hunger that I like. And so we left there. John and I both felt the same way, and we were kind of like, man, I don't like what they're talking about. But it's like who you kind of feel like you should use. No, nothing against them. It just wasn't for us. So when we met Aaron, he came together with this strategy, and once we started talking, he went into full mode and put together this plan. Like, it wasn't just happenstance, like how he was going to do it. He strategically put together the plan, which I believe Gray Steel has helped and instilled, and I'm sure Nigel has helped you as your mentor in figuring out how to do this. It wasn't just like we're going to put some marketing together and throw it out there. It was a full-blown strategy that he executed, and I was like, man, this is impressive. So we're actually selling that right now. We have some challenges with it, but he's doing really good at communicating what that looks like. So we're going to go ahead and start asking and answering some of the questions we have with these two gentlemen. Now I've been doing all the talking this time. Pass over the reins. Who said it was a lot? Sounds like it was my wife. Was that you? Never. All right. So to start out, what we typically like to do, Shane Blur has typically done the interviewing, and this is a different style having me here. So I believe everything happens for a reason. I was a little nervous about it, but we're gonna kick it off and do a great job, I believe. So we're gonna start off with talking what you guys are. Tell the audience. Tell me what you are currently doing in business as we speak.
Yeah. So, like Tyler mentioned, our firm is Gray Steel. We were founded roughly 10 years ago in the Washington D.C. area. Our team strictly focuses on multifamily investment sales. With that, we'll also sell some entitled land, some development sites, things of that sort. But our sheer focus is multifamily market rate housing, and we sort of play in the private capital middle market space, and we also sell institutional deals on occasion as well. But roughly call it like $1 million to $50 million dollars, typically like the sort of deal size that we're typically dealing with. My core focus is the Baltimore MSA, so call it like from Howard County up into some parts of Pennsylvania and in Delaware. But for the most part, the lion's share of those transactions happen right here in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. I think out of all the trades like last year, maybe like over 90% of them occurred like within the Baltimore metro areas, like Baltimore City, Baltimore County. We also have a capital markets division, and we also do we also have an equity business as well. So any sort of capital event that you can think of on a commercial real estate transaction, we have a service within our firm that we can assist in. But for our specific capabilities, we are strictly investment sales.
Nigel, I know that I believe that what you're currently doing is like you've moved up in kind of the ranks at Gray Steel to where you're leading a team. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for you?
It's definitely.
So my name is Nigel Crayton. I co-lead our Mid-Atlantic team. So that says north is Philadelphia, and as south is Richmond, and everything in between. Like Aaron alluded to, it's mostly multifamily market rate apartments, but again, we're not going to say no to the right deal if it makes sense. From a geographical standpoint, we kind of touched that, but from Gray Steel, from a national standpoint, we have 20 offices across the country. So as west is California, as north is Boston, and everything in between. Kind of our goal is to build the best experience for the clients that entrust us with their real estate. And really what we're doing is just multifamily brokerage, taking them from start to finish in their different multifamily careers or real estate careers. So really the four tranches that we touch on is the hold, the buy, the sell, and then also the refinance or some sort of capital markets event. So anything that kind of is in that circle, we help and we work with clients to kind of reach their real estate goals. I mainly focus in D.C., Montgomery County, and Northern Virginia. Aaron focuses in Baltimore. We essentially have different agents cover different parts of the Mid-Atlantic, rather than have one agent cover kind of all the way from Philly to Richmond. It makes more sense for them to kind of hone in on a location, meet the players, meet the lenders, and kind of make those relationships there. Yeah, that's it.
So, do you guys handle I hear the term capital markets, and so you help, your firm, Graysteel, can help buyers put together financing for their deals? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so typically and actually I want to take a step back, as well as like multifamily housing, that can be a very broad term. I know like in Baltimore specifically, something that's very hot is going to be single family rentals. I'm sure a lot of people in this room have some. I think like 1 in 3 houses in Baltimore, it's a single family house, is a rental property. So we'll also capitalize and sell portfolios of single family rentals as well. But from the capital markets perspective, the deal is essentially driven by how much, driven by the debt or the equity. So if we have a transaction where sort of pushing for a specific price, and maybe a buyer does not have as favorable terms from the lender, we can sort of insert our capital markets team and it help that buyer get more favorable financing to be able to have a win for the buyer and the seller in that situation. So I can think of a transaction we did that closed in March. It's a 26-unit building in Clifton Park, where deal was deeply distressed. Deal was in receivership. So at this point, meaning the loan that's currently on the property is not being serviced by the income on the property. No bank wanted to finance it. Buyer could not find financing, and they were not within 100 miles of the property, which also makes it very hard for a new sponsor to get a commercial loan. They were actually living in Puerto Rico. They only had a very small balance sheet, and this was the first apartment building they're ever buying. So by all intents and purposes, this deal was not going to happen. The owners are getting foreclosed on. You basically have these young guys that have never bought a deal before buying a deal that's headed for the dumps, and I think the guy who they bought the building, the original owners bought the building from, was actually foreclosed on as well. We ended up finding a capital source to be able to come provide 75% LTV loan on that transaction, or LTC loan on that transaction, and wrap all their construction money in, and have a longer interest-only period than any other bank was offering. So we were able to get the price that the owner wanted, get him out of the deal, have some cash in his pocket, pay off all the lenders, and I think on this transaction there was a legal fee that had to be paid to receivership that was in excess of $450,000. This was a very wild transaction. It took, I think, an additional 60 days to get to the table just because of all the moving pieces. But our capital markets team came in and was able to execute and get that deal done in a situation where that deal should have been foreclosed on.
Can you talk what is debt versus equity and then sponsorship? I heard those terms. Maybe some people don't know.
Well, I guess when you think about debt and equity, you just think about the senior loan and think about the senior loan and and equity could be a mezzanine loan, which is essentially a second mortgage that you're layering in to basically cover the down payment. So maybe if you have a 65% LTV loan, you want to get to 90 or 85%, you'll have somebody come in and they'll put a lien on the entity that owns the property as opposed to the actual to the asset itself.
So like the debt would be, if the first position, the lender's giving 70%.
Yeah, so let's say $1 million loan,
Yep.
65% LTV would be $650,000.
That's what
and then
the first lender gives.
that's what the first lender gives. That'll be Chase Bank.
Nice plug right there.
There you go. Got it. My God, Tabir. And then the second loan could be private investor, or could be another lender who likes the deal. They want to come in and they put an additional 20% to take you to 85% LTV, and that'll be the mezzanine loan. Or in some cases, that could be you could go raise that capital from private investors, maybe like give them preferred equity in the deal.
So those guys that are in Puerto Rico, they're getting debt, the first position, and then you're helping them raise that.
In this case,
Yeah.
they already had their equity raised. I think they had about $20 million raised. They could not find their senior loan. They had a relationship with a lender who came, extended our closing an additional 4 weeks, took a private tour of the property where we had to make all units available. It was a very intensive process, and then it basically stopped responding to emails and walked from the deal. So obviously not a good situation. Buyer was freaking out, and then we brought a new lender to the table to be able to mend that deal together.
What?
I was just going to say, the reason being, our team, we close 50 to 70 deals a year. So we're talking to a lot of different people, a lot of different lenders. So in this scenario, while not have the exact deal that closed like that, we've been in similar situations just from kind of deal experience that we're able to plug and play. Hey, this lender would potentially do this sort of loan. You need this much equity, and we're able to kind of put those pieces together. So again, we're solutions based, right? Real estate it's a lot of issues. So just trying to figure out how to make the sponsor, which is the person that's doing the investing, life easier is kind of our goal, and that's what our capital markets team does.
That's good. So if you guys could just talk about a little bit about your background, like, what your upbringing was, how you got into the business, things that were important along the way, people that were important to you along the way to help you get to where you are now.
Yeah, well, for me, my dad's here. My dad was my like entrepreneurial hero, I guess, growing up. He started a software business when he was when I was or I think the year I was born, and I remember he was launching a new product. I think around the time I was like 10 or 11 or something like that. And I specifically remember a conversation where he told me, I'm investing all my money into my business, and if this works, this will be great for our family and for my business. If it doesn't work, we're gonna be broke. And that's it. And my mom hated that he told me that, and was like, you should not tell that to your son. Like, he's gonna freak out. But I loved it, and my brother loved it as well. And we, but so I sort of had that plug in my head, and he always told me, when you get in your 20s, you're gonna start a business. It's gonna suck for the first 2 years. You expect to make no money, and if you stick with it, that means you love it and you should do it forever. So that was sort of the guidelines I had for like getting into entrepreneurship. I played baseball all the way through college. Loved it. And I think the best thing about that was that I actually sucked. So I had to work extremely hard to be average. And I think that sort of like overbending effort made me, or gave me the ability to be more successful in real estate, because when I came into Graysdale, by example, if our goal was like to make 200 calls a week, I would try to make like 400. If the goal was to set like 4 meetings, I'd try to set 8 meetings. So even if I like came up short, I would be at goal or above goal. And I think a lot of that came from the lessons I learned from my father and things of that sort. When I actually came into Graysdale, I told Nigel, in the first conversation we had, he told me the same thing that my dad told me when I was 10, and they never talked. He said, it's going to be the worst 24 months of your life for the best 20, 40 years of your life. So I found that to be like shaping for my commercial real estate career thereafter.
My story's not as good as Eric. For me, I'm just super, super, super competitive. Like anything in the world. If we're playing checkers, if we're typing on the phone, like I'm gonna get more words than you. Like it's just anything. I'm just super competitive, and real estate's one of those things where it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what you do. Everything, I guess your results are what you put into it. You can have $2 to your name, and you can build an empire that's worth $2 billion, right? So I really like that about real estate. It wasn't a sort of you do 25 years and maybe you get promoted. It's like Aaron, if you come in and you make some noise and you're making 400 calls with an expectation of 200 calls, you're going to 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x your competitors. So it really just was a personality fit for me. Multifamily for me, like the asset class and asset type. I actually interviewed this with John, told me a question earlier today. He basically asked me why I did it, and basically multifamily is an asset class that's never going to go away, right? We always need somewhere to live. We always need someone to sleep. We always need a roof over our head. So from a investment asset type, it's just really, I'd say, safer than some other things. I'm sure you guys are seeing the headwinds in retail, the headwinds in a lot of the different asset types right now, but multifamily has kind of stuck through and has actually appreciated and done very well over the past 3-4 years, which is amazing. So definitely kind of how I got into real estate and then how I got into the asset class that I selected.
What are your strengths and weaknesses in the business, and how do you handle those weaknesses in the business?
I would say my weakness when I came into the business was definitely the math and sort of like, you know, getting behind the spreadsheets. My start in real estate was I would drive to I think Mike, I think when I first started wholesaling, me and Mike were looking at a deal together, and funny enough, like a couple years later, I was like at Gray Steel, but back then I didn't know anything. I was completely winging it, and that's sort of how I came into commercial real estate as well. So when I came to a firm like Gray Steel, for the first 60 days, I was able to get behind the spreadsheet, sort of like understand the math, get into start to understand the debt and the equity side of the business, and I started to soar from there. But I think the biggest thing that I had as a strength was the ability to relationship build and sort of find the emotional intelligence to be able to make a deal happen between two parties. I can think of a transaction that we recently closed where another broker had the deal and the deal fell apart because on the inspection he was just disrespectful to the tenants and they were disrespectful to him, and then it scared the buyer away from the deal. And when I went in as the broker in the transaction, I was actually able to collect money for the owner from tenants who were not paying. I think it was like $15,000 of balances on like one tenant. And all I did was have a conversation with the tenant and get them to fill out the COVID pandemic relief form online so the owner could collect that money. And that was like a $15,000 rent payback that made the economic vacancy on the building look a lot better, and then we were able to go ahead and sell that deal. But yes, originally coming in, my weakness was definitely the math, and that can be fine-tuned. But I think no matter what, if
how did you fix the math? Like how did that?
Working with Nigel every day.
Right.
I would call him. I think I actually tell this story a lot. Our senior managing director, Kyle. My first day at Gray Steel, I texted him at 11:30 at night, and he got on a Zoom call with me, and we went through an underwriting for like an hour.
In context, he has 3 kids under the age of 5.
Yeah,
too. So
it was insane for me to do that. You should have fired
yeah, pretty wild.
But being on a team, of 8 people that are doing 70 transactions a year, and being able to sort of like use their expertise to my advantage was how I was able to basically go from a point where I knew nothing to sort of like being an expert in my submarket.
I'd say the weakness for me coming in was definitely I just didn't have the experience in real estate at all. I'm looking at a lot of the faces here. You guys have a lot more experience than I did coming in, especially the younger group right in front of us, 17, 18, 19 years old, kind of getting to understand real estate. I had 0 when I first came into business, so just that learning curve of trying to know as much as the owners that are 40, 50 years my senior, and trying to be on the equal level playing field with them from an understanding standpoint. So that was definitely my weakness coming in. I think my strength is probably just, I'm gonna outwork you no matter what. Kind of my favorite athlete is Kobe. And Kobe, he has a quote where essentially he says that he will work out 5 times a day, and by the time that he was a 3rd or 4th year guy in the NBA, the guys that are working out twice a day, he was essentially an 8 or 10 year pro, just because he was gonna outwork them to get where kind of that end goal. So I think that's kind of my strength, is that I'm just gonna work harder than anybody else to make sure that I hit my goals. And especially in a career like that Aaron and I are in, it's all commission, right? So you make $0 or you make a lot of dollars. There's been a lot of months I made $0, right? And a lot of people would have quit. But I think just the hard work, just the will to want to be the best kind of helped me prepare to my career, where now I don't have as many 0 months where I'm making no money anymore like when I first started out.
It was really intense, like the pastor that spoke, but I loved it. And what I found was the folks that I ended up befriending, we shared like the same things like that we were going after in life, and that was a good experience for me. But what I often would like try to figure out is like what it was like for them to be the black people to be in like a white society, or what it was like when they went in. So vice versa. So I say all that to say, in this industry, you can kind of spot a commercial broker from like 10 miles away with what they wear and how they walk and how they talk. And that's making a big generalization, but being a minority in the business, you're definitely a minority in this space. How has being a young black man starting in this business, how have you been able to break into it? Are you connecting with people that look like you, that look different than you? Like, what does that look like, and how do you want to inspire other minorities to get into the business? So I think I just asked you a bunch of different questions.
Yeah.
So
we got it.
You got it, right?
Yeah,
What I'm
we got
asking.
it.
Go ahead and respond.
Yeah. It's actually I was interning I was interviewing at a few different firms before I found Graysteel. And I reached out to Nigel on LinkedIn. We had a few people in common that we knew, but I only knew of a couple black brokers, and there was only a couple that I would want to work with because they were actively doing deals, and Nigel was one of them. I think I sent him a message and he responded back in like 5 minutes. And it was not even, because it was an opportunity for him to make money or anything like that. It was a very genuine reaching out. And I thought that was awesome, and then it immediately drove me to the company. But as far as like stats, I think African Americans take up just under 15% of the population in the United States, but like less than 2% of all commercial real estate professionals. So like not even brokers, but just you're thinking about all professionals within the commercial real estate industry. So those numbers are clearly off in some capacity, and a large reason for that being is that it's almost like there's almost a somewhat good old boy network within commercial real estate, where like you have to sort of have connections in the industry to be able to get in. It's very hard to break in. Obviously, I knew Nigel. I sent him a message, and I had an opportunity to interview, and I moved forward. But I think when I was interviewing at other firms, there would be a team full of people that just had a bachelor's degree, but then when they were interviewing for a diversity position, you had to have like a JD and an MBA. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like you don't have a JD or an MBA, nor do like the other 12 people on your team, but like this diversity position has to have that. The way I found commercial real estate was actually my brother. He interned at CBRE and JBG Smith. JBG Smith is a publicly traded company, one of the largest, or the largest landlord in DC. And he got into that position because he went through his alumni book at his school, and he essentially said, who are the highest donors or highest earning alumni from the university? And I think like if there was 100 people, 99 of them were in commercial real estate. And then he's like, okay, well, I want to do that. And then when he told me that, I was like, well, I want to check mine as well. So I went through my book, and it was the same thing. So then that's sort of how we got attracted to the industry, and then we started to research from there. But it's extremely tough breaking into the industry as an African American. Obviously, you're already young. I think in my first 3 months of making calls, number one question I got was, how old are you? Yeah, how old are you? I don't know you. Who are you? I've been in this industry 30 years. You've been here 30 days. I'm never selling my $10 million deal with you. I'm never selling, my building with you. Like, I have no idea how you can, what your capability is to do business. And then when I show up and I'm also African American, that's another barrier of entry. So I mean, there are barrier of entries, but I always say, we break through them. Like there's no, everything has been hard being African American in this country. So there's no better way to do it than just break through it and try to, work your ass off and be as successful as possible.
Piggyback on Aaron, I think the hardest part's breaking in, right? Because if your parents aren't doing that career, typically kids follow what their parents do, right, or get an idea of what to do from their parents. So if only 2% of the population is in commercial as black, it's going to be tough for you to actually break into that. So breaking in and just getting a chance is kind of the hardest part. What we've done to kind of mitigate that or to overcome that is really just trying to outwork and trying to learn as much as possible. I think at the end of the day, people, hopefully most people, they trust you or they trust individuals that are knowledgeable or smart or good intention, good nature. So if you can exhibit those qualities, the hope is that you'll be able to kind of earn their trust and earn their admiration so that they can give you a deal or a listing or have a conversation with you. So that's really how we're trying to break into it. It's kind of a moving target. I'm not saying we have a complete answer to it, but that's really what I know myself and what Aaron have strived to do is just be the number one broker of our asset class in a certain location. So no matter what we look like or what our background is, that the individuals want to work with us because they know that we are successful and they know that we can help them more than anybody else can. What we're doing to kind of pave it forward, Aaron had the great bright idea to start the Graystone Black Professionals Network, which is something that we launched in February this year? January this year, so start of the year. Essentially what we're doing is we're looking to kind of break down that barrier of entry. We're looking to kind of open up those doors so that people, young people, old people, whoever, can kind of look at us and look at our team and look at folks in the firm and say, hey, they look like me, they talk like me, they're from the same area as me, maybe we can kind of, or maybe we can make it more inclusive in a sense, right? So that's really what we're looking to do from an education standpoint, from a mentorship standpoint, from lending relationships to investment opportunities. We're really looking to kind of even the playing field. And by that is really just kind of being out there, wanting to help and making as many relationships as we can to hopefully our communities that will be able to reap the benefits of kind of what we're doing.
And then the access to capital is the other item that so obviously we want to add more black brokers to the firm. I think since we launched this, we on our team we have I think we have 3 black interns. We've added
Cruz.
Yeah, I can't remember how many. Within the last 6 months, we've added like 4 black brokers to the firm. And I think before that, there were only 2 in the whole company. So like we doubled the amount of black brokers we actually had at the firm, within a 6-month time period. And we're, actively looking for internship positions and things like that. And want to be clear, these are individuals, that are, top talent, should be in this industry, but for whatever reason, we're not either given the position at the firm or at the team that, that they had. We're looking to learn and grow those relationships. Broker relationships are huge. Obviously, multifamily, I think you probably know, having relationships with brokers is really the best ways to get access to deals, and having relationships with lenders to be able to get a more amenable source of capital.
You're a good man.
Appreciate you. I'm rapping here.
I didn't think about that. Got myself.
But we see a lot of black investors that are sort of in that sub $5 million space that can't really grow out of that because they don't have the access to capital or broker relationships to be able to get into some of these larger middle market deals, and that's what we're looking to do. So I know Nigel's seen it in Ward 7, Ward 8, and I see it a lot in Baltimore, where you'll sort of see an investor that stays in the sub $5 million space because of lack of resources to be able to get to that, like, you know, $50-100 million deal space, which I think could have a lasting impact for years to come within the African American community.
Seeing, like, you know, my perspective, you know, as a seller, and what I saw was the hustle, the drive. I didn't see anything about the color, and I would imagine everybody in this room is the same ways. I saw a young man that is like hungry, like me. I came from nothing. My skin is different, but I still had nothing that I started with, and I know what that took to get from nothing to something. And so I think, you know, for me, it's like the reason why I wanted to work with you had nothing to do ever with the skin color or anything like that, but what my encouragement is to especially the young folks here is the work that we're talking about, putting in that work, and probably being African American, you probably need to work harder in my mind to break through like what they're talking about. Like, I could tell he was going to outwork the competition because of the way he approached the business and how he wanted to earn it. He didn't want to be given it, and that mindset of not being given anything but working for everything is what I am promoting, and he demonstrated that. So that wins any day in my book. Like that work and the drive and ambition to go get it. And what he did is went to work right away, and that stood out. I told John this. I was like, man, he's going to go to work, and he went immediately into action and started putting together the plan of how he was going to sell our building. So we're talking about the skin color, but really that plus hard, that you got to break in. And then when you do, I would feel like if you're willing to put in that work, you'll get the respect once you've done it, and people will recognize that, hey, he might have had it more difficult. Most of the guys, they might be like held up at first until you've gotten that experience, but somebody will give you the chance.
Yeah, nobody wants to miss out on money. So I mean, once you sort of gain market share and you sort of, you know, build a reputation in the marketplace, I think that sort of fizzles out. But I mean, all things being even, there is, you know, some issues there. But I mean, I think ball bounces back both ways.
Yeah.
I've seen in Baltimore specifically, there's a large Orthodox Jewish community, and I think culturally, I think we click better, just because, you know, we both come from backgrounds of similar sort of like issues, you know, that we've seen. I've initially had issues, I guess, with, like, you know, race when dealing with owners and things like that, and I never had that issue, you know, with dealing with people like Tyler, you know, members in that community as well.
So at this point, it's about 1:27. We'll have a couple minutes for some questions. If anybody has questions for Aaron and Nigel at this time, if you have a question, stand up and give us your name and then what the question is for them, and then we'll go from there. But we probably have like another maybe like 15 minutes or so for that. And then after that, you can hang out and kind of mingle and network. So is there anybody that has any questions?
All right, so I have one quick question.
Who are you?
So a lot of times you saw Corey Jones, Real Car Properties. So you say all this stuff, and everybody's like, yeah. But I want to ask a very specific question. If anybody in here wanted to utilize your services, what's your, I know you said under $5 million. I think I heard that. I also heard multifamily. I don't know if you service residents. Like, I know you aren't here to sell yourself, for sure. You're here to answer questions and so forth, but there are different types of investors in here that are all on different levels. And so, specifically, who's your target client? I know you said that, you know, y'all range, the spectrum ranges, right? Who are you looking for? What's your sweet spot? And then I know you said you help from suits and nuts. I think I heard that. So just real quick, your elevator pitch, if you would, just so that you don't want to leave here just empowering. You want to maybe leave here with a client, and also there might be some people in here that really use you, right? So if you could articulate one more time who you could help, what your sweet spot is and so forth, and put the mic up.
Yes.
What's we can hear you.
Anybody who owns real estate, send us your deals. If we can't help you, or if it's not in our niche, we'll point you in the right direction. But I mean, market rate multifamily housing encompasses so much in that, like there's a deal right now we're selling that's 28 single family homes, but as a portfolio that's treated as as multifamily. There's I'm trying to think about other sort of oddball deals we've done. We're currently selling a piece of land in PG County within a gated community, and it's essentially like 12 single family lots. So even though that would be, I guess residential in nature, combined as a portfolio that's commercial development. We've sold mortgage notes. So let's say like commercial. So a mortgage note would literally be the mortgage on a commercial building. We've sold that debt to either private investor or that maybe buys mortgage notes for the personal balance sheet, or to another bank. I'm trying to think outside the box. Oh, in Baltimore specifically, I don't know if anybody has this, but we've transacted ground rents. So if you have a package of ground rents, it has to be at a certain dollar value. But we sold 1,000 ground rents, from one private investor to another. So.
Yeah, I just would say multifaceted, multi-service real estate company. Any question you have, reach out to us, send us an email. Like Aaron said, if we can't service you, we'll help. We'll put you in touch with somebody who can. A lot of the main stuff we're doing is investment sales. So that's, again, multifamily, that's affordable, that's retail, that's mixed use, that's land, that's student housing, single family homes from a portfolio standpoint. We'll help you with the investment sales piece. We also have, for the right deal, we also do raise equity for the potential development deals, and also the capital markets as well. So to answer Corey's question, next steps for us, anything real estate, if it's from wanting to learn how to invest, wanting to find more properties, wanting an internship, whatever that might be, just send us an email, give us a call, and then we can kind of determine what the next steps would be. But again, just kind of broad strokes, multifaceted, multi-services, commercial real estate, providing ownership solutions. That's really kind of the elevator pitch, I'd say, for what we do.
Big question, where are your business cards?
I lost my wallet last night. I literally lost my wallet last night. I'm worst sales guy in the world right now.
Yeah, but I'll just say me too. I don't have any business cards, unfortunately.
How could they get a hold of it?
But we're on purpose. We're very easy to find. Like my cell phone number is all over the internet, email, everything. So I will. Anybody who wants my contact information, I'm more than happy to share it with you.
I'd say graysteel.com is the best place to go. I know we're bad sales guys when I have business cards. We're turning to like the online, where everything's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. So I'd say graysteel.com, which is gray like the color, G-R-E-Y, steel like the metal.com. Once you go there, you go to the agent profile and you can find us through the agents. Now we'll have our cell phone, emails, Social Security is probably on there.
Yeah, like we want you to find us. We want
our
you
bio information, whatever you guys need, it's all on there.
My name is Kenyatta Robinson. I'm here with the real estate entrepreneurship program. And my question is, as everyone gets challenges and things like that, which one of the hardest lessons you ever learned from being in this?
Hardest lesson.
So no, you go first. Kenyatta, man, you asked a hard question, bro. Probably just dealing with rejection a lot. Like our job at the end of the day, we're obviously we're advisors, but a lot of it's sales, right? So I probably hear no 99% of my day, right? Or an FU or something of that sort of accord and that nature, and just kind of dealing with the hard skin to overcome that. A lot of people can't be told no 99% of the day for a whole year. That's a lot of no's. So just having to overcome that's probably the hardest thing. I don't know if it's like one exact example, but it's just again, a lot of what I'm doing when you're first starting out at least is cold calling. So it's, hey, my name's Nigel, you want to sell your property, something along those lines, and you get clicked on, and it's just everything under the sun. So making that next call, coming into work the next day, sending the next email is probably the hardest part of starting out, and then the hope is that once you get to a level like Aaron, you can make that call and then pick up on the first ring, you know, but that takes 3 years to 4 years to actually get that, so just dealing with rejection is probably the hardest part I'd say about, and what I've learned most from this industry.
Yeah, I'd say the other big thing, especially if you're in a broker capacity where you're sort of like a middleman in a transaction, but always focus on the solution and not like either the tone of somebody's voice or what they're saying. I think I showed Nigel a text message yesterday, but like an owner like literally cussed me out like for like 2 paragraphs. But at the end of the day, he wanted his money, and that's all that he wanted. So I could have focused on like all the FUs and like what he like was saying to me, or I could have just focused on like the solution. And then by the close of business that day, we found the solution. And he texted me the next day and said, "Hey man, good job."
I love you.
Yeah, but so I mean, sometimes Tyler and John freak out too, and it's like they've never yelled at me though, ever. But the point being is your job in that situation is to be the level head and to sort of find the solution for the issue. You're the advisor in the situation, and but these are obviously very critical transactions. There's a lot of emotions that can come involved. So just being solution based as opposed to getting emotional. I think my dad was sitting in my office on like my first really bad conversation I had to have with an owner, and I was like on the verge of like I was like sweating like through my shirt. I didn't know what to do in that situation. But it gets better with time. So that's the hardest lesson is when stuff is going left on the do, you need to find the solution, slow everything down. It's kind of like playing sports, where if you slow the play down and you move through it, it's going to make it a lot easier as opposed to panicking and then you'll make a mistake.
I think that was great. You guys did a good job. I like those questions. That was a great question. And all the answers were spectacular. I missed early on when I first started acknowledging a few people, so I want to take a moment and acknowledge Marco Rodriguez. I think he was back there. He might have left now. Yeah, I don't see him back there. Anyways, he is the managing partner of Rexstar Title, and Rexstar Title and Marco financed this meetup today. And so I'm super grateful and thankful for him. And then also, I didn't do it previously, but Aaron Alberti graciously financed one of the largest meetups that we had when it was Flo Groberg, the Medal of Honor recipient. So thank you, Aaron, and great contractor. Got to give him a plug. Unlimited contracting. Not that he's necessarily looking for any new business, but it's always good to get acknowledged for the good things that you do. And I have to also say Charm City Builders has maybe paid for a few times, so thank you, Charm City Builders. Also affiliated with Charm City Builders a little bit. So the meetup that we're doing has been every now it's the third Friday of every month. So stay tuned for August. We're going to be back here. I don't know if I'll be here. We're taking a trip that I've never taken before, and I'm super excited. Our family, we're going out of the country. We're going to Dubai and then to Rome, which I've never been able to do something like that. So I'm really grateful. Can't wait to spend that time with my family. It looks like my boys are done. That's a good sign to.
I was going to say, how they're introducing that.
Oh yeah, that's right. We can do that. Yeah. So I mentioned last time at the last meetup, I said my kids are here. I love seeing them here. I've said that I identified as a follower of Christ, and then second is a husband and a father. After that, low down on the totem pole is a real estate investor. But that right there is my pride and joy, and those are my sons Hudson and Jackson Banks, 2 baseball studs. fortunate to have some men in their lives that really love them, other than me, which Ash and Corey are their coaches. Super grateful for them and all that they do and speak into their lives, and that work. We're teaching them that same thing, the work that they put into the baseball. Aaron and I talk a lot more about baseball than
Yeah, probably more. Yeah.
It translates from
Yeah.
I send him drills and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you should do this.
He actually came out to one of the practices. I was like, man, this guy's dedicated. I love him. And then I told them that he was a scout. And they were like, I said, he's come to look for a high school scout. They were like, for real? But yeah, so I said that you could bring your kids, and then I pulled back when I said that. I said, make sure, only if they can be well behaved and sit in their seat and not go crazy. But I don't mind having kids, because our youth, and like, I love having kids around and seeing them. So having them grow, ultimately, that's what this is about. So if you have kids and you can keep control of them enough, they are welcome to come. Make sure when you sign up, you put them down. So we know the food that we're going to need for them. Not that they eat a lot. I saw what they ate. I'm watching if they clean. Nope, they didn't clean their plates. But anyways, thank you guys so much for coming. Nigel, Aaron, appreciate you guys. And if you want to get with them, I would suggest grabbing them before they leave, and just talking to them and grabbing their information, taking it to your phone, and don't be afraid to step out and meet somebody that you don't know. And that's what the purpose of this is, to raise the tide of the room and everybody grow together. Thank you guys. We'll see you in August.